Welcome to Dance Specific Talks. This podcast is made for us dancers, and our goal here is to inspire dancers from all over the world to become better, both on and off the dance floor. We want to provide you with a platform where we dancers can share and learn from each other. So let me introduce to you your host for this podcast, t-zer, and remember as always, by dancers, for dancers.
What's up, party people, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Dance Specific Talks. Today we're going all the way to the States as we are meeting no one else than the amazing Yoda Love Jones. What do you need to know about Yoda? Well, she was born in New Orleans, but actually was raised in LA. She is currently now in Las Vegas, touring with the Cirque du Soleil MJ Tour. She has performed for some of the world's biggest artists, including USHER, TONI BRAXTON, Chris Brown, Damian Marley, Paul McCartney, and many, many more. We're super honored to have her on this podcast, and this one will be a bit of a philosophical talk with someone who has been and know the industry in and out. And now, let's get it going. Welcome to this interview, Yoda Love Jones. I love to have you here. I'm so honored. I know that you are right now on the Cirque du Soleil tour of the Michael Jackson's One. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you are in Las Vegas right now, right?
Yes.
Amazing. Yep. How is that? How is that going for you?
That's going great. It's been 8 years since I've been on that show. Incredible show. And started as a dancer. Now I'm doing character work. So it's a new growth for me, and it is a beautiful life. You know, we are living the dream, and every day growing and learning. In Michael Jackson's music, you can't ask for anything better. You know, it's timeless artwork.
Yeah, and the craziest part is that you have performed with Michael Jackson himself back in the days. Is that correct?
No, I didn't perform with him.
Oh,
no, not personally.
Were you on another show then with the same theme?
No, I've done his last video, but he passed away by then. Michael Jackson One is the first thing I've done with Michael Jackson as far as show. But before that would have been a dream to work with him personally and see his work ethic, because it was impeccable, absolutely impeccable.
Well, you have an impeccable work ethic yourself. I have read your whole resume, and just for people that don't know you, I just want to mention a few names that you have worked with. I saw a whole list of USHER, Chris Brown, TONI BRAXTON, Busta Rhymes, Damian Marley, Paul McCartney. The list just goes on and on and on. So when we talk about work ethic, I just feel like you might be the right person to talk to.
Yay.
When you look back at your dance career, what has been a little bit of a moment for you where you felt that, like, I don't think I can get higher than this, and then you just pushed through that part?
Oh, there's so many of those moments. Probably would be in LA, in the audition process. Dancers, we all know that hustle, that grind, that passion to be doing your dreams and living that. And so sometimes it can be really difficult to continuously tell yourself yes, and to keep going through all of the no's that we get. And it sounds cliche, but it's really true that dancers and artists, period, we really push. We push and push and push. And so I think that process is probably the hardest, because sometimes, you know, you do show up. I always say show up for yourself, right? In anything that we do, if it's your dream, you have to show up first. Everyone else can tell you to show up, but until you do, that's it. So you do your part and you show up, but then you still have people that say no, or, you know, wait, or whatever. So it's that continuous showing up for yourself. And the blessed thing is to have a good support system, meaning friends and people who also want to see your dream. If you don't, then you just double up and show up for yourself even harder. But it is a blessing to have friends, family that support you on that grind also, because that is the thing where sometimes you're like, man, is this for me? Like, you know, it's for you, but this hustle, like, you know, how do I break through? Basically, that's definitely the hardest part.
Yeah, and also like when you got, I mean, as you have had so many gigs, I can never cover all of this in this 1 hour podcast, but you worked with commercial, you worked with TV, you worked behind artists, and I cannot even imagine how hard it must be to get that gig, and then you have to go back to an auditioning process again after, and still live in that I am proud of my achievements and I am worthy the things that come along my way, but I still have to fight another time to get the next and to stay, so quote, on the top. How has that journey been for you, and what has been some of your key things in order to overcome that?
I think what you said about, you use the word fight, and I think that I would like to change that word fight and use the word love, because that's the word that keeps us going to the next anything, or keeps us humble and coming back to ground one, you know, ground zero is the love. Because you're like, well, I love doing this, so I'm going to keep doing what I have to do to elevate it. And that's the push, you know, is the love for it. Should be the push, and it should be the motivation, and the determination is that. Some people a lot of times ask me like, oh, how did you plan your career? And there was no plan. It was, you know, when you're little, you go in a dance class, you love what you do, and you stick by it. Again, like you show up for it all the time, and you just keep doing it. And so I think that for me is always what keeps me, or brings me back to focus, brings me back to learning more things, brings me back to inspiration. Also, you got to live life. You know, you've got to, there's a thing of like, focus and have this tunnel vision, but then there's this thing of opening yourself to the world and allowing, we're artists, we have to be inspired by people, by food, by experiences. So these things all have a play in the, what do you call it? I don't want to say rebirth of your art again, but you know, the tenacity you need to go back and say, okay, we're going to audition again. Or, you know, we're going to just keep at it, because once you decide that this is what you want to do, then that's what you do. You know, and I know the first job, not the first job, but I do classical East Indian dance, and that I was dancing at a wedding. And then the tour director was on that, or was at the wedding, right? And then she called me later, she tracked me down, asked if I want to go on tour with Paul McCartney. I said, I thought she was lying, you know, hung up the phone. She called me back, and then it ended up, that's what I ended up doing. But a lot of times I say this to say, sometimes we don't plan like our careers, you know, we just do what we love. I was just doing what I loved at a wedding, right? So my friend was getting married, and it ended up being a world tour of Paul McCartney, who was huge, you know? And those are the moments that show you that, oh man, like loving what you do and showing up for what you love will, I don't want to say pay off, but it will reward you, and it will guide you in life to be where you're supposed to be, you know, and it will carry you. Like, I went all around the world doing this for classical East Indian dance, which I love, and the journey continues, you know, like I've done, like you said, a lot of other works, but it's for showing up for that love for what you do.
Yeah. And you're the only one I've had on this podcast that didn't start with classical, that didn't start with hip hop, but actually started, and let me not butcher this name. You started with classical dance when you were 6 years old. And then at 13, you went into Bharata Nathyam. Is that kind of close?
It's beautifully said. But yeah, so I started Bharata Nathyam at 6 years old. I had a friend who randomly said, for Christmas, I'm giving you and your friend a month of free dance lessons. And there were Indian classical dance lessons. And we were like, what is that? And we went. And I remember the first class, we learned everything. And we just loved it so much and just kept doing it. And so that was my first. I love that you say technical, because that dance is very technical. I think this is something important that everyone should respect with styles that are classical, that there's technique in all of them. There's just a different technique from ballet, from that technical. But this dance is very, very traditional. It's a spiritual dance. It takes discipline, it takes love, it takes dedication, it takes learning, it takes a lot, it takes heart and passion. And so yeah, I started that 6. I had my art engagement at 13, which is a debut performance that the dancers go through, that the teacher debuts their student. That was at 13. And after that, just been doing it, and it's still with me always. I still do it.
I love it, because the photos I see of you as well, also, like, you're still keeping it real though. Those Adidas pants are under every every outfit, and I love that. And I'm just like, you are just a mash of different, in one image says so much. And I always love to see that blend, and what you're bringing in to the hip hop scene is also an awareness exactly about that. You have thrived in popping, which is so technical, and having that Indian dance with you must have given you a unique approach to the focus you need in order to do popping. People cannot believe that everyone can do popping, because it takes another mindset in order to train that. So what made you then, you found a love within the Indian dance community. You then met the hip hop community. You have danced everything: house, wacking, locking, Vogue, Chicago footwork. I mean, there's a lot, but what made you find your way into that and to stay into that, but still keep your roots?
Well, my roots are obviously African American, right? So my family is a lot of musicians. I grew up in John Coltrane's jazz music, I'll say. And so music has always been a part of my world. And my dad's a bass player. So as far as my roots go, Black music has always been in my life, right? And so if I just dance or just whatever, that rhythm is gonna be naturally there. So the Indian dance was from when I was 6. That's a different kind of foundation that I have. But under that foundation is my family, right? My ancestors, my roots. And so this is just let's say like 2000 around. My grandfather passed away, and it was a shock. And so I said, I need another outlet, another way of moving. That's how I express, right? So I was like, I need another outlet. So I was like, let me go. And I went to the gym randomly, and there was a teacher there, and I said, oh, I can do that. I asked him where he taught. He said he taught at Millennium and Debbie Reynolds and this and that. And so I went there. And that's kind of where I started to go into the industry of it, because before that, I was just going to clubs and sessioning and dancing, and people kept being like, are you from New York? All these type of things, just from my natural flow, I guess you could say. That's what pushed me into the industry of that. Because before that, I was doing a lot of cultural performances, a lot of, that type of thing, doing Indian dance. And so, I met my teachers, my mentors, I would say Super Dave, Dante Seven, Jason Wright. There's so many, later on met Link and everybody in New York, these amazing dancers, the list goes on. But that would probably be the transition, I would say, is my grandfather passing and me going like, I need a different outlet. And I got into popping because I went to Japan with my friend. This is after the Paul McCartney tour. She said, "You want to go to Japan?" I thought she was joking. I said, "Sure, I'll go." And I went to Japan. And when I went, it was Osaka, and Electric Boogaloo were performing. So it was Pete, Skeeter Rabbit, all of them, Sam, and I was like, "That's dance from my home. That's my people." Like they were playing Flashlight. It was just funk music, and I was like, "That's my family music," I said, "I want to learn it like that," because before that, honestly, I never saw the dance connect with the music that well, and it resonated with me. And I said, "That's the way I want to dance with that music," because I hear it and I feel it that way. And so that's what got me into popping. And I like what you said when you said it's difficult, because coming from Indian dance and being very, being good in that, I had to start from scratch, and I couldn't figure out like how to pop my muscle, nothing. It was a challenge, because I'm like, I know this music, like my dad and my grandfather played this music, but like, how do you pop a muscle? So that was a challenge, and I loved it, and I took it, and blessed to have these incredible, legendary teachers to take me under their wings and guide me through these dances, because at the end of the day, it's the dances that we love and that we respect. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like just any popping dancer. I read that you are in a crew called the Lady Boogaloos, and that is from Popping Pete and from the original Electric Boogaloo. And I seen you in different events with him. Like, what does it mean, and what have you gained from training with Popping Pete?
Oh man, it means so much. Those words aren't even great enough, because he pushes us so hard, not only in his skill, but in the fact of his age too. You're like, it just shows you that like, show up for yourself, right? Love what you do. And so that alone is a inspiration. But when it comes to the dance, he loves that dance, and he loves to share it with everybody, with the world, with he had this idea to have a female popping crew just because he wanted to do it. So he put together a group, and it was awesome, because how I told you how I met him in Japan, I didn't know him before that. I thought, because I didn't know where he was from, I thought, oh, okay, there's that dude in Japan, like I'll never learn that, whatever. And when I came back to LA, this is later, it was Skeeter Rabbit, Popping Pete, and Showtime in the room. And I was like, oh, those are the dudes from Japan, like, wow. And then Skeeter Rabbit asked me, rest in peace, asked me to come in the room and session with them. And I just watched them like a kid, like, wow. And from then on, Pete asked if I wanted to be in the group, and then he selected some other girls. And those trainings were, it was like 3 hours. And one time we did an entire extended version of Flashlight, only doing a Fresno, and it was brutal. Like in your mind, you're like cursing him out. But the next day you're like, oh, okay, I got this Fresno. Like, so it's just the training I really appreciated. And I loved that training because it was just heart drenched on the floor. Just you're sweating, you're training, you're really training and pushing each other, so to learn as a Pete is learning from a legend. He doesn't come at it, I don't know. He doesn't come at it anything less than the great art that it is. And he knows the value of that. So he shares that.
Yeah, I think he definitely saw the artists that is in you, because he would never have picked any just random, So when I look at you and your dance, I see so much devotion. What would you say, like personally, that you are devoted to within your dance? Because there is, as you say, there's the love, of course, but there is something I think that you need to be like devoted into, like, I'm gonna create my life around this, and I'm gonna devote hours and hours and hours to this art form, and continue to learn and grow and expand, and never ever settle to be done with learning. What is your personal relationship with devotion?
That would be God, to be honest. And I feel that devotion comes from knowing that we are given the opportunity to do what we love. And they're gifts also. I know that I love to express, live, share through music, right? And that's a gift that's been given. So the devotion is showing up to that and thanking the opportunity I have to be in that, to give that, to share that, to return that, to keep it. However, there's so many infinite ways that we can be in dance, you know what I mean? So, but the devotion is knowing that it's a gift and an art, and to hold that high, you know, and just live, you know, live. Like, dance is, I don't want to say a weapon, but it's a weapon of good. You know, I can travel anywhere and meet a friend because I dance, you know, and I can tell stories through dance. I can heal through dance. And I say I, meaning we, you know, like, we can do that. I've seen that. I've witnessed it. It's incredible, the power of dance, the power of music, the power of art. And so the devotion is coming and knowing that we have a role, we have a place, we have power, we have humility. Like, we can be humble and do this also, but we can also be powerful and brave and do this. And so that's really and there's nothing like it, you know. I don't know for some people, but sometimes if I stop dancing for a period of time, I get like agitated and, you know, just you feel the anxiety building you. And then that's when I learned, like, oh, I need to dance. It was the same thing with my grandfather. You know, I didn't dance for a minute, and I realized, like, I'm getting anxious. Like, I need to dance. You know, as far as what I know right now, you know, knock on wood, you know, my physical body is able, right? So again, while I'm physically able on this earth, I will do it because that's what I love to do. And it's always the thing of showing up and being in what you love to do. So the devotion, I love that you say that also, because starting out, I'll say, doing classical Indian dance, it's a very devotional dance. It's prayer dance. You know, we have to take our shoes off when we dance because that's the way they pray. You know, so that, since I started that at 6, that's resonated with me through everything, and the discipline of that, you know, of honoring the space that we have to dance, literally the space, the space within physical and in ourselves. We have the space that we can create and express ourselves. So the devotion that will always be there, and that's what we see in each other when we all dance. You know, we see that life.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so beautiful. And I also love what you're saying. I don't know, I have like a little bit of an obsession around feet lately, and about like dancing with shoes versus no shoes versus high heels, and like how different how different feelings it all bring out. But when you say this thing that, we need to take off our shoes, it just makes me think like, wow, like in hip hop, we rarely do that. and it's also about grounding yourself and really be like, I'm here and I'm present and I'm connecting with this spot right here. So what a beautiful way to actually start.
It is something special about taking the shoes off. I will say that. Sometimes, and I've seen other dancers do it, that don't do any dance. Like, I don't know if you know Toyin Sedona was my really good friend. She's an incredible house dancer, but sometimes she'll just take her shoes off and she'll want to take her shoes off and dance. I do the same, where it's like, if I know, oh, I'm about to take my shoes off, like because I really want to connect. It doesn't necessarily have to be done. You can dance with shoes, but there is something special about that connection with the floor and the I don't want to say earth, but, you know, just with the ground. It is grounding. And
yeah, it really is. It really is. Wow. Well, when we're talking about these subjects, it's also, again, dancers around the world, no matter where you are, have this thing where, like, we love what we do, and then there's like, we don't get a lot of money for what we do, and then you come into that thing of like, you want to keep on doing it, but a lot of people fall out because it's just too hard to feel that you are in a comfortable space when it comes to both financially, but also maybe opportunities and longer contracts and whatnot. And I just kind of want to open that and just ask you a little bit about, like, mentally, when we train ourselves and when you train yourself to, like, mentally show up for you, show up in this world as a dancer, how do you manage to stay and feel abundant and feel the abundance in your life? What do you say to yourself, or do you have like a mental training that you do in order to just stay feeling abundant and not stay feeling that you're lacking resources or lacking things in life?
Ooh. What I like to say is that we are given everything we need, and everything we need is already in us, meaning the tools, right? Because if you're talking money and these things, that's all physical stuff that we definitely need to live in this world the way it's set up, right? But when you have a dream, you have to find that balance, because first there's the hustle of getting that dream, right? Showing up for yourself, showing up even in the right energies. And I say that meaning the right circles. It's easy to come into LA, you're talking about LA, right? It's easy to come into LA and just be everywhere and see, oh, there's this group, and not really know like where you want to focus your energy. Me, I kind of knew the style I liked, I knew the energy I liked, and I rocked with that. You know, I love super age energy as far as dance goes, and that type of movement. You know, I wasn't all over the place. I only took maybe 4 teachers, right? Or focused with 4 or 5, and that was it, you know? And then kept showing up for myself. And the balance is, it can get hard. At one point I was working like 3 jobs. You know, I think I was at like Jamba Juice, J. Crew, and this store called Politics, because, and in the middle of that, I would go drive all the way to Santa Monica for some auditions, come back to work 3 hours late, you know, because it's just, that's the life of it, you know, it is a hustle, you know, and that's, like I was saying, that's the hardest part with the audition parts, because you're like, oh my God, like, where's the money? Like, I got to pay my car note, got to this and that. But the balance of it is knowing that it's a period that you have to go through if you want to really see that vision come to life, you know. And a lot of people do fall out. They come here and they think like, oh, I'm going to make it in a year, or they give them type of time. Sometimes there's not that time. Sometimes you have to really push, and not sometimes, all the time. You got to really push, but also you have to navigate through it. You know, sometimes you have help, sometimes you don't. Meaning like now there's a lot of people that have like workshops, like let's say maybe Galen Hooks, she has a program of, you know, like coming into the business, which is great. Well, we didn't have that, you know, at that time. It's amazing now that they have these opportunities to like help people navigate this business and how to, you know, kind of center yourself and you know, just different ways of doing it. But other than that, it's like, you just have to know in your mind that this is my dream. This is what I want to do. And anything else, whether it's good or bad, has to fall under that. And you have to accept them both. There has to be a balance, right? You have to say, okay, this is a bad day. This is a good day. Show up the next day. You know, every day you just have to show up and be honest about it. Like, you know, if you're broke and you're sitting there taking 1 million classes, you got to, okay, I got to get a job to pay for my classes. You know, something. Some people are like, I'm an artist and I refuse to work. Like, okay, well, good for you. How are you going to do that? You know? So you have to be realistic. You have to put yourself in classes where you can learn. You have to find a way to get the money and the means to do what you need to do. You have to invest in yourself, meaning like, you know, there's outfits that I had to have for some auditions. Go buy the outfit. go do that. Like go for yours, you know? And I think that is probably just the thing, is the balance and knowing that it's capable and possible.
Yeah. And like, just to look back, where do you think that comes from? Like, who taught you that? I mean, your dad was a bass player, your uncle was like a guitar player, your grandfather did music, and you literally were born in New Orleans. Like, did this hustle mentality was just installed in you, or like, did it come from anyone particular in your family that like, go for yours, go for it? Because a lot of parents would advise any child to not go for that. Go for doctor, go for lawyer, you know? So where did that installment come?
Interesting, because if I break it down like that, I don't even know if I call it a hustle mentality. It's like a believe in yourself mentality, you know, because believe in yourself and believe in the arts, because all my, you know, a lot of my family or artist, but where am I going with this? It just comes from the drive to live, to be honest. Like my grandmothers were strong women, I'll tell you that. Like they were survivors, right? And they knew what they just had to do, and they would do it, you know. And then I grew up with Alice Coltrane's music, John Coltrane. She showed me the power of art and divine art, art that speaks, art that has a positive message in the world. Strongly showed us that. So it's like that is always in me. She always promoted and wanted me to do what she saw was a gift, you know. Same with my mother, my father, you know. They all knew that this is okay, this is what she loves to do, you know. It was either this or drawing, because I'm also an artist, so either one of these, they're like, do it, we don't care, just do it, you know. And of course they left that up to me to do the work, as far as, you know, the hustle. They go out there and audition in this, but it was never a push from them in opposition. It was always do it. And that drive just comes from just a backbone of family, of love, of knowing that you're possible, you're capable, you have infinite possibilities. For some reason in my mind when I was little, I always thought like I can do anything, you know? And it's really true. And sometimes when we get older and we almost not lose that, but it lessens. And that's something that I always have to go back to, is remember when you were little and you really thought that you could do anything, like revisit that, because that also allows you to start new things. Like I just maybe 2 weeks ago started piano lessons, which is so random, but I've always loved piano. I've had one in my house since I was little. So again, it's a thing of like no fear, overcoming things that you think that you can't do or whatever, you know. I would say that's it. It just comes from a deep knowing. That's all I can say. It's just a deep knowing of knowing that you're capable.
I love that. I love that. And I know that you spread that. Like I can feel it. I never met you in real life, but like I just feel like that is the power that you also keep installing in other people. And as a teacher, as a choreographer, as a co-dancer, I just, yeah, that's the kind of vibe I really get from you, that is a belief that you also spill over to others. And it's beautiful, because I know that you posted on your Instagram a while back the word unfuckwitable. When do you feel the most unfuckwitable? What moments? When do you feel nothing can touch me?
Oh, that's a good question. When I move in my purpose, that is when I feel that. When I move in my purpose, because when we decide purpose and we move with that, it's like it's an alignment, and it's like you know, even if it's a bad day, like I said before, you know it's still in alignment. Like, oh man, it's a bad day, but we're just gonna take it because this is what my purpose is, and I have to put this on my shoulders and carry it. And so I would say when I'm moving my purpose, whether it be, because like I said, like I haven't drawn in a while, but right now I bought like an art table and I'm gonna go back into it, and that makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel good, because again, like I said, these are gifts that I know I've been given, and it's like when I neglect them, it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? That's when I feel like not unfuckable, like, oh, I'm fucking myself, because I've been given these gifts and I'm not even doing anything with them. Yeah. So I feel unfuckable when I move in my purpose and I shine in my gifts and I share them, or I create. Creating is something that definitely makes me feel that way, because it's in all of us to create. We just have to tap in and find out what our source of creation is, or, you know, what we do physically with it, you know. But that is the feeling when I feel moving my purpose, and I just feel confident in knowing that I have dreams and I go for them, you know.
And making that a habit and just continue.
Yeah.
I love that. When you look back at some of your proudest creations where you felt like you moved in purpose, I love that. I need to quote you on this one. So when you look back, because you have done so much, so I know this is hard, but when you look back at some of your most purposeful moments in your dance career as a dancer or as a choreographer, either creating a work or dancing a work on stage, do you have a specific favorite moment? Because I could, we could guess that it would be with the biggest artist and like the biggest stage, but there might be a moment that is more personally rich for you when it comes to dancing in your purpose.
Ooh, that's a question. This is a random one because I wasn't even on stage at this moment, but it would definitely be Paul McCartney's tour and it was in Cleveland because my grandmother came to that show, and I call her Blackbird for some reason, but in that moment, when he sang Blackbird, the crew found her in the audience and put her picture really big on the screen, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. And for some reason, that moment stays with me always, just because it was such a moment to be proud that she could come and see me do my art and see me traveling, getting paid doing what I love to do, and then at the same time see because it was huge, see herself. It was just such a heartfelt moment, and realizing that I'm doing what I love, and my grandmother's here to witness it. I would say that was such a moment to be proud of. There, like you said, there's so many. Some of them are just simple, like dancing with your friends, like for me, it's more of a feeling, not a specific moment, but a feeling of like when you're dancing with your friends and your peers and you're just going off, like even some simple shows like doing Carnival with Super Dave and the crew, I say, it's like, those are not big shows. We weren't even paid, but it's like the moment, the feeling of that is like priceless and forever, forever I'll hold those memories and cherish them. Right now, I'd say I'm most proud of an event that I'm doing with my friend. It's called Everything Raw. And I'm very proud of that because for all this time I've been doing, which is a blessing, working for other people's visions, being included, meaning someone taking your artistry and putting you here in it, which is a blessing. But now it's, after the pandemic, it really allowed me to realize, what are you building for your art, for yourself, for this? So we started Everything Raw, it's the name of the event. And it's like, because he plays percussion. So he handles the music side, it's all live. I handle the dancer side, and I bring basically my friends because I said, I want to see my friends. I want us to all create raw things together again without thinking like it's for a job, it's for an industry. I just want us all to go back to being a kid again and share with each other and just have this raw energy, right? So the event, and there's normally like a live artist, Super Dave DJs it, Tommy Pete hosts it, live music, and then there's the dancers. And with that event, the dancers can dance with the live music because that's something that I grew up in, was live music. So it was really important for us to all remember that we're live beings. It's fortunate that we have recordings and we can record the music and carry with us wherever we go. But it's also something that we can actually, these things are generated from us. We create them. So that event is really awesome and it's growing. And right now, that's something that I'm very proud of to see. You haven't been to one of them, but the energy is just wild, right? And to see everyone's happiness, literally happiness, that they come and then they leave and they say, oh, I needed that. And that's what artists need. We need to express that. And also the challenge of business in that too, because I'm terrible at business. So this project has forced me to better my business skills, meaning get like an LLC or a this and a this and a that. And it's like, it's a whole new growth. And I think a lot of dancers don't study the business of dance and the business aspect of what we can do with it. We're always used to being put in someone's business, which normally they put us at the bottom, to be honest, pay-wise and all of that. And so learning that aspect and learning how to grow in that has been a new challenge and accepted. And I'm very proud of that, proud of the growth, proud of the journey of it.
I like that. Do you think that need of something raw and something real and something, I don't know, tangible is maybe not the right word, but like something raw. Do you think that was like what came out of COVID for you, taking a lot of things away and kind of rebuilding something else up, or how was that period coming back for you?
It was because CIRQUE stopped, right? Because all the shows stopped. So we were just home, I'd say, right? I was in LA and I would go to Leimert Park because I wanted to find some jazz music. Like, where's the jazz? I went to find jazz. I went to Leimert Park and there's a band called Black Art District that played there. I would always want to dance, but there was never really the space. And so that's where the idea came up. And I talked to my friend, and we both shared the same kind of vision of wanting to mix the music and the dance together. And so we just decided, you know, to do this. But I definitely, that changeover left a lot of things open for new creation, meaning things as in space, a lot of space. Because as we all knew, studios closed down. A lot of things that was solid was suddenly not solid anymore. And what does that mean? That means there's an opening for something new, an opening to create what we want and what we need, right? And so I felt that I was before that in such a industry rut, you know, like do the grind, go to auditions, do the work for da-da-da, which is a beautiful blessing. You know, it's always a blessing to work. But then sometimes you go, what am I really doing for my art? Like, how do I feel? And for me, I just wanted to see my friends. I wanted to build. And so that's where that inspiration came from. And it also comes from, at least the way I love it, I thrive off of spontaneous things, spontaneous raw creations, because that's to me where things are created, new things, you know, and there needs to be a space for that. There really is. There's some space, but there's not that many. And I know that from doing this event, you know, people are like, I've never been anything like this. It's like, why not? You know, so it's just a passion that I've always wanted when I was little, to just dance with live music, because that's my family, you know, it's literally like my living room, you know, the art and my dad practicing bass in the morning, you know, and me trying to move with it and such and such. So for me, this event is like me being a big kid in my living room with people I love and doing what we all love to do. So to answer your question, the pandemic definitely pushed that, because the pandemic, a lot of people, because we didn't have all the outside distractions that we have, it made a lot of people turn inward and say, what am I doing with my life, where I live, how I live, what am I eating, you know, what am I practicing, what is important to me, who is important to me? So many of these questions, that's why so many people did job career switches, you know, when they came back, it was like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm suddenly doing this. You're like, what? And you have people moving across country all of a sudden, like from Cali to New York, New York to Cali, and it's like these big changes that they're making, because when everything is still, we have time to listen, we have time to be honest with ourselves and true, hopefully, you know, be honest with ourselves and true. And the truth is, like, I just love to create and be around art, and I want that to build, and I want people to see the rawness of it and feel it, including me. This is me involving in that too, because, you know, sometimes I felt I stepped away from that a little bit, doing the same regiment thing every day, which is another beautiful challenge in itself. How do you reinvent yourself to the same show every day, right? So that's another whole talk, you know, but with this specific thing, it was going back to how I feel genuinely inside, and what gives me life, you know, what lights my fire, if you will, you know. Yeah. And that is that.
I love that. It's so, I know since this podcast started in COVID, I had the chance to interview so many dancers that were like stuck at home. And it was interesting how you say, like, it really was outside distractions gone, either willingly or forcefully looking inwards and questioning everything, right? Questioning, like, am I really on the right path? And like, am I really happy with myself and what I do and who I am and all of this? And one thing that, because I live in Amsterdam, and one thing that we really started doing was dancing outside, because we weren't allowed to book even dance studios, not even like just a few. So we were so-called forced to meet outside, but there was just something so liberating with no mirrors, and it took it back to the true essence of that sharing. And why am I standing with the back to my students and the other way around? Like, let's just do a circle instead, and let's just bring it back to, I don't care if you go right or left, you know what I mean? Just do the group. And also to be able to feel the weather, to be like, today is a rainy day and we're still out here under some kind of garage roof, you know, making it happen. And some days it was hot, and just to be, I felt like a lot of industry, but in general, like a lot of dance has just moved inside, and it was never like that. It didn't come from that. And so it gave us an opportunity to kind of also be like, yo, like, I feel the sun in my face when I do this, you know. And I dance a lot of dancehall myself, and so in Jamaica it's always like that. Like, people dance outside. That's just the way you do it, you know. And it always felt like such an experience to come there and like be like, okay, we're doing it here. Gravel, grass, or concrete. Like that's what we're doing. And I'm loving that. I love that COVID gave us that. We're not moving inside in the summertime. We're like, now when we are allowed to be in their studios, we're like, we're not paying rent for that. We're doing 6 months outside. Bring you layers.
But I like what you said about, you know, when Jamaica and how it's outside. That thing is returning to people, returning to connections, returning to seeing each other again. You know, like, that's the thing. After the pandemic, it was like, oh, I just need to connect. I think people just wanted genuine connections again, because we were such in this loop of just a loop of, I don't even know what you call it, the vortex. So like, you know, I don't know, but it's that desire to genuinely connect and create, and whatever that is, you know, whatever your art is. That's the thing about Everything Raw that I like, is like, we have all types of singers, poets, wherever your art is, just come and share it. But to say that is, I like to hear you say, to be outside and see we're in this world. I think sometimes we forget that it's Earth. You know what I mean? Like, to connect, there's energy, there's currencies, there's people, there's so many things that we just take for granted. And so that's all. We're just trying to tap into that again.
It really is. It really is. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. And I, you know, of course, this whole period has been awful in so many ways, and bless everyone that had, like, you know, health issues and financial struggles and everything. But the positive part is this, that we all, for the first time, got to feel exactly the same. We got to experience the same thing at the same time all over the world. And that is, in a way, also empathy. If we can create something genuine out of that, and as an artist, that is dope. That's really, really dope.
Yay.
What are you now looking forward to? What are some of your most, like, what makes it, the butterflies move around? What makes you excited when you think about what's coming up this summer or this year? Or
creating and building things that I've visioned. That's simply that, like that, and moving in my purpose. I'll say that's the most, like, just that sense, those words right there, to me, is what moves me. And that's on all levels. It could be relaxing, it could be working, it could be anything, you know. It could be going to the beach and just having a beautiful, calm day to be like, oh, I'm here. It could be hanging out with friends, but it could be working for what we envision. And that to me is like, and to not be lazy about it, to really go out and do it, is what gives me butterflies right now, you know. And because I know I have so many things in my heart, in my mind, that I've wanted to do for so long but have been afraid to, and that fear is no longer a thing, you know. Like, the butterflies is like pushing past all of that and just knowing that I can do it, but I have to do the work for that. That's exciting to me, is to do the hard things, to do the things that I know I can do, you know. And so those are my butterflies.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. When you talked about this is something I have feared and I no longer fear, when I think about myself, that is to currently in my life, that is to actually do a little bit more on my own as a dancer and not wait for crews and groups or partners and actually be like, I have the drive. Maybe I should make it happen on my own. And that's so scary, because that means if it fails, it's only on you and it's not on the entire group. And it's so scary. And that is like, personally, that's one of my biggest fears that I'm pushing through right now. What would you say is something you used to fear that you feel like you're overcoming right now?
It's almost just what you said. You know, I love to be in a collective, you know, to do things with people. I also love to do things by myself, right? Because as an artist, you know, I would sit for hours by myself and be completely comfortable. But my fear sometimes is just doing something, following through, I'll say. And I don't necessarily know why or what it is that makes me not follow through sometimes. And this is mainly on my own things for my personal growth, you know? So I don't know if it's necessarily a fear, but it's a thing of going like follow through. Like that's for me right now is the follow through. Like anything I start, I want to finish it. Whether it finishes out and I'm proud of it or not, I finished it. You know what I mean? I had a business meeting with one of my mentors, and he was saying that's so important to follow through in business, you know, because even if you follow through and it didn't work, it's a lesson. You go, oh, I followed through and that didn't work. So now I know what didn't work, but I followed through to know. If you don't follow through, then you don't know because you never finished it, right? So, and then if it does work, then you go, ooh, that worked, and I followed through. I stuck it through and saw the end of it, you know, or the beginning of something else, you know, because you followed through and it should plateau you just to the next level, right? So my thing right now is follow through, and whatever the fear is or whatever the block is, finding that block and going, okay, you know, like annihilating it and pushing that fear down, because that's all it is. It's a block, and blocks are meant to be broken and meant to be pushed through. And so that's what I would say in all of us and all artists. You know, there's so much fear that we put on ourselves, and it's like, who says for what? You know, like again, going back to the gift that's been given, like we're here. What is the fear? Like and I know it sounds so cliche, but when you really tell yourself that, it's affirmations of, no, you are capable, follow through and see.
It's so liberating to hear someone with your resume say that they still have doubts.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, that's the way it is. But it's just like, it's so incredible. That's why I love to have these talks with dancers, because it doesn't matter how many amazing shows and like just again, like the artists you have worked with, the gigs you have booked, the TV productions you have been in, you have learned this industry in and out. And to know that there's still insecurities and there's still blockages to work through, and there's still moments we have to surrender, and then there's other moments where we have to pick it up and just believe in it. And you probably recognize, like, I feel like I have had ideas that I could have had 20 companies by now, but it just from idea to making it a start, because then I feel like I am forced to finish it. Oh my God, like that little leap of faith, that is where most of those ideas just get like, no, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah. And so to speak on that, it's like sometimes you have to really make sure the thing that you're wanting to follow through is good. You know, like you just have to have a knowing of like this, and then you go, okay, this is what I'm gonna follow through on, and you do it, right? So I don't know, that's just where I'm at right now, is that. And what you say on all of the things and the opportunities and the jobs that I've done and this and that, those are like incredible blessings. You know, I've put a lot of work into that. I've had a lot of people put work into me, you know, and believe in me. But that's to say, through all of those, there's always insecurity. There's always fear. Even when you book the job, you know, am I good enough? Now I booked it. Like, oh my God, I have to show up for that. Like that, I think, will always be consistent in everything we do. Always is, I guess, the consistency for us should be just knowing that we love the art. You know, I'm showing up for that, and then all the rest comes. You know, like even on the money issues, you were saying, like for me, the way my career has been when I show up for the art and I just practice it and I love it, the rest follows. Like it's like I don't go into it going, oh, I'm gonna book a Paul McCartney tour, or I'm gonna be with CIRQUE. Or CIRQUE audition was, I almost didn't even go, you know, because it was like 8 a.m. I said, I'm not gonna go. And then I asked a friend, like, who's the choreographer for the audition? And she said, Travis Payne. I said, oh, I will go, because I had this list of choreographers that I really admired and wanted to work with, and he was one of them. So I said, oh, I'll go. This will be like a free class for me. You know, so I went, and they just kept keeping me. And then they asked if I do Indian dance and this and that. And then I ended up booking it, you know, but I had to fly to New York to do that. It's a whole process, but it wasn't a plan. It's, for me, the thing is, when you show up for what genuinely, like to genuinely show up, that's the word. People show up and they're not even there. People take 1,000 classes a day and haven't really learned anything because they're not soaking in that knowledge. They're not really applying themselves to it. They think like, oh, I just showed up for class. No, did you really show up? Did you pay attention? Did you listen? Did you feel? So genuinely showing up for the art will always show itself back to you. It will always show itself back to you in some way or another, even bigger ways than we think we want from it. It'll show you a different way. It'll show you, no, this is what you need. This is where you should go. This is what, like, the fact that I've went around the world paid for, you know, I'm sure dancers can relate, is such a blessing, you know, off of the way I move, the way I express myself in movement. Someone wants to pay me and go all around the world. But that's because I'm assuming, you know, they see the genuine love I have for art and they want that with them. So these are all things that we have to remember as artists, to just be genuine in what we do. And then also, which is probably more on the question of what you're saying, like pushing past the fear, knowing that there's power in that genuine art, and knowing that we have the gift to take it places ourselves and not always depend on other people to take us with them. We have the power to generate something for us, something to share, something to give and let out into this world, because art is always meant to be shared, right? Like, and so I think that's just where I am.
That's amazing. I feel like I could sit here and just have this philosophical talk with you for hours, but I'm not gonna be able to keep you this long. So first of all, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. In the end of my interviews, I always have something called fill in the blanks. You get one word or a maximum at the end of a sentence. Are you ready?
Okay. Let's go.
I do my best when
I'm honest.
I struggle when.
Ooh, I doubt.
Ooh, could be another podcast. I feel courageous when.
I give.
And one of the most important things I have learned is
Love is real.
Love is real. And another thing you posted was kindness is gangster.
Absolutely. Kindness is everything. Everything.
I love it. Yoda, if people want to follow you, where can people find you? If people want to know more about your journey or maybe see more of your work, where can people find you? The mic is yours.
Right now, you can find me at the beach. No, just kidding. You can find me at Yoda Love Jones on Instagram. That's really where I am right now. And I'm building from that. And then, of course, Everything Raw is the event that I do. That's _ Everything Raw. Those are the two things that you can find me at right now. But mainly Instagram, because Facebook, I'm never on Facebook. So Instagram it is, and then the rest is life. You gotta catch me in life.
Woo! I love it. We're gonna link everything in the description below. Thank you, Yoda. Enjoy your tour. Amazing to have you on this podcast. And stay blessed.
Thank you so much. Thank you always. Thank you.
Don't forget to click subscribe, comment below, and give us a rating or review. We have a Facebook page, YouTube page, and we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms. We also have an Instagram, so don't forget to tag us in your favorite episode and share it with the world. because we read all of it.